right. Hi, everybody. This is tea time again. It doesn't matter when you have tea, as long as you take a break. And tonight we have for our caregivers a friend, Liz from Sherpa FInancial. And Liz, would you like to just sort of introduce yourself? And we're going to be talking money tonight.
Yeah, and specifically, we're going to be talking about how to protect our older loved ones from fraud. So again, my name is Liz Herman. The name of my company is Sherpa FInancial. I've been in the financial services industry for my entire career, spent a lot of time in retail banking, have had my insurance and investment licenses since the mid-90s. But what that means for this evening is that I have a depth of experience working with families and with especially older family members, and seeing how they interact with their finances and how that interaction can change over time as they get older and as family members get more involved. So, I mean, it's just a sad fact of life. Criminals target older Americans for fraud. And a lot of times that's because, well, first of all, they have nest eggs. They've saved all their lives. They have this money. They don't understand cyber security very well.
Yeah.
They came of age during more trusting times, and sometimes they're just isolated and lonely, and they have diminished eyesight, hearing loss, or other health issues. And so, they have a hard time keeping their house and home in order. And crooks just exploit those vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
And so I want to help people today kind of understand what to look for and how to help. Top scams. Yeah, go ahead.
So, well, yeah. So you've raised like so many issues, and we know as caregivers, we're overwhelmed and there's a lot going on, and there's like just tons of ways that we can be made vulnerable. And so the first thing that I want to let folks know is that we're going to do this in small bits and pieces. Like, this is an ongoing conversation, and if people also have a story to tell about something that happened, we'd love to hear it, just so we can serve you better in terms of the answering questions. You can always email questions and things like that Liz and I and other folks will get back to when we can get some of the answers and clarity around what's actually happening. But you're right, caregivers are overwhelmed already, and then they're vulnerable, or we're vulnerable, I should say, because we're all really caregivers in one capacity or another, and if we're not, we will be. And so what is the number one thing, because you did say there's all these different ways that we can become prey. So how do we avoid that? Like, what's the number one thing that we should be doing or thinking of, if that's the only time that we have in a day or in a month or in a year of caregiving? What's the number one thing that I should be paying attention to?
Pay attention to what they're unfortunately what they're not telling you. Is their behavior different? Were they open about things before and now they're not talking about things? Are they just disorganized where they were organized before? Or maybe they're talking about people that you've never heard them talk about before. It's all about being aware, and some things that you can do just to maybe head off at the past. If you have just give them stories like, oh, I heard that an older person that was in your development was just targeted with one of these roofer scams, and just start talking about these things. But the key is not to make it a sit down, mom or dad, we're gonna talk about how not to be caught by fraudsters, because that's not going to go over. It just has to be a very easy, kind of off the cuff conversation. And so that's really the key. And the one thing though that I do want people to know, and that I get a lot of questions about, is what if my older family member is being taken advantage of by another family member?
Yeah.
Those are really, really fraught situations. Um, and I just want to give people 7 warning signs that people should be looking for if something like that is happening. So again, number 1, being secretive. The family member maybe, had access to mom or dad's information, and now that family member isn't talking about it anymore. Or that family member might live with your parent and depends on that parent for financial support. That's always kind of a red flag. Not always, but that's just something to look at. A family member starts to isolate the aging parent from other family members, or they insist on being present when anyone else is with that parent. Hopefully there's not a substance abuse problem going on, because that is also a red flag. And here's the one that I've seen, especially in my banking career, sudden changes in estate planning documents, specifically the powers of attorney. I can't tell you how many times I've had older clients come in. One month they want this person as their power of attorney. The next month they want somebody else, another family member, because they've had a falling out with the other one. That's just a really dangerous situation.
What would be so here's a couple things that I've encountered just from the folks that I've talked to. And again, a lot of times things can get pretty ensnared, but it starts with just someone trying to do something good. Like they don't understand the implications of the choices that they're making. So, and they don't understand maybe that if they move somebody onto their property, that then that could be, or they are, the mother says, oh, go ahead and put my check into that your bank account because you already bought me groceries, right? So I think that some of it might just be awareness. It might be, nothing that's anybody's trying to do that's not that's kind of shady, but that's where knowledge is really going to help, and the family having conversations beforehand and everybody planning ahead in advance, because that's building that wraparound team, which is one of the things, as you know, Liz, that I'm always advocating. Who is as a patient and as a caregiver, who is the wraparound team around that person? Who is allowed to talk, and what are they allowed to talk about? Right. And so we want to try and make sure that people don't make unfortunate missteps just because they don't know that that there is a POA and who the POA is. If somebody has POA paperwork but hasn't communicated to the 4 children that one of them is a POA, so it makes that's where it gets, really, as a chaplain's listening to family dynamic stories, for me it gets really sad, because I didn't know, and she did this, and they isolated me from that when I did this choice, and they start pointing the fingers. But it really started with the lack of communication, role delegation early enough in the process.
And that communication is key between all of the family members that are closest to the older loved one. And honestly, if you see something, say something. Be nice about it, but don't let it fester, and don't pretend that you didn't see it, and don't ignore it. yes, it might be something very innocuous and it might be an innocent mistake, but talk about it.
Put it out there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because the longer you wait, the worse it gets. It's that slippery slope thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So, and this is a really, really sensitive topic because families, have a lot of dynamics, but also there's, there's people who are trying to support people when there's not family around as well. And so that there's a whole nother layer to that.
Absolutely.
So you have your clients. This is a typical situation. You have a client and that is a couple, or partners, or committed to one another for years, and they are each other's POA. But they both go on decline at the same timeline. What are you saying to them before that time where their health is declining? Like, how soon should they have a POA put in place? And what are the different kinds of ways they can structure it? Let's just for ha-ha's sake, they have 2 kids, or they have 2 people on their team.
So first of all, if they are part of a blended family, that can be tricky, but first of all, you need your wills done, and those need to reflect who you want to take care of your affairs if either one of those people passes. So typically the one partner will name the other partner as their executor. But it's important to name someone as a contingent executor and be careful about who you choose to do that, because, and it's the same thing with the power of attorney. You have your power of attorney, they can be each other, but you have a contingent power of attorney. So if that person that you said, I want this person to be that power of attorney, if that person can't serve for whatever reason, then that they've got a backup person. And those are very, very important decisions that you need to make.
How do you feel about, isn't there something called consecutive or concurrent
Contingent?
Contingent? So there's one where they're both serving at the same time.
Oh,
okay. There's one that there's serving after the other, like like your co-power, like me and my sister can make the decision about someone. That would be.
I'm not a fan. Yeah.
You're not a fan?
No.
Talk to me about that.
And I'll tell you why. So you have 3 kids and you want them all to make decisions together about you, or, be executors of your will or whatever. So one of them moves to Florida and the other one moves to Ohio and the other one's here. How do you get everybody on the same page to make the decisions that need to be made when they need to be made? It's not fun. And then they're back and forth with each other. One person with a second person as a backup is the best way to go. If you're not comfortable with children or family members being a power of attorney or a contingent, then find phone a friend, find a friend, or sometimes if you have,
there's third party it's like people that can handle and can help as well. Talk more about that. So
yeah.
And we have just hit the tip of the iceberg. We've probably scared people.
I'm sorry.
No. I mean, it's a big topic and it's very challenging, but it's good to begin to have the conversation and start, getting some of the language out there and none of us are experts in your specific family dynamic, right? That's where the rubber hits the road is, there may be 100 ways that people do the structuring of their wills, the structuring of the advance directives, the structuring of the POA and the NOK, which is the next of kin, and contingent or concurrent or whatever it is, whatever is the legal language. We're not and I'm not a lawyer, but what I bring to the equation as a caregiver is that I'm the expert on my family and my family dynamics and what my family needs and what my patient is needing. And any family that waits until the last minute will have more stress and more cost. That is for sure. And more
Yep.
risk. The sooner, it's nothing to go and modify something that you've already discussed. Like you can say, oh, well, this changed like every 5 to 7 to 10 years. You can adapt documentation.
And here's a really important point. If you need to do it before that person or those people go into decline, because the last thing you need is somebody else to come in and say, oh, well, they were suffering from dementia by that last time that they changed power of attorneys. That's null and void. So yes, absolutely, getting it done early is the best thing to do.
Conversations, getting it done early. We're going to start there. Every family is on notice. Okay, Liz, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we will check back again very soon. Thanks for having tea time with me.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.